A research station near Europa became the primary hub of this psychological warfare. Brilliant minds from around the world worked in shifts, crafting intricate communication strategies that would make the most advanced psychological warfare look like child's play. Haewon Kim, a brilliant quantum communication specialist, developed a breakthrough technique. She created what the team called empathy viruses, communication packages that introduced complex emotional uncertainty into the alien network. "They think like a machine," Haewon explained. "But machines can be confused, and confusion leads to breakdown." The results were extraordinary. Alien attack formations began to show hesitation. Coordinated movements became sporadic. It was like watching a perfect machine slowly develop individual thoughts that contradicted its primary programming. Some alien vessels actually began moving away from human territories, not in retreat, but in what seemed like genuine confusion. Their perfect collective intelligence was showing signs of individual uncertainty. Military strategists watched in amazement. This wasn't traditional warfare. This was something entirely new, a battle fought in the realm of information and consciousness. One particularly ingenious strategy involved creating false communication channels that suggested internal rebellion within the Arachnid Collective. Some signals implied entire sections of their network were considering separation, introducing the concept of individuality into a previously unified consciousness. The psychological impact was devastating. Satellites captured bizarre moments of alien vessels, seemingly arguing with themselves. Attack formations would suddenly pause, recalculate, then change direction without apparent reason. The perfect unified alien intelligence was showing cracks. Ji-hun and his team worked around the clock. Each successful communication intervention was a step closer to understanding and potentially defeating the alien threat. They weren't just fighting a war, they were conducting the most complex psychological experiment in human history. As weeks passed, the Arachnid Collective's once perfect coordination began to show significant fragmentation. Their strength, their unified consciousness, was becoming their greatest weakness. Humanity had discovered something profound. In the battle between technological perfection and creative uncertainty, creativity would always find a way to win. Psychological warfare had begun to turn the tide of the entire conflict. Thanks for listening. The final battle erupted near Jupiter's massive storm systems, a cosmic arena that would decide humanity's fate. Captain J. Park stood on the bridge of the UES Thunderbolt, humanity's most advanced quantum-adaptive spacecraft, watching as the remnants of the Arachnid Collective gathered for what they believed would be their ultimate victory. But humanity had other plans. Months of psychological warfare, technological breakthrough, and relentless determination had transformed human capabilities beyond recognition. The experimental fighters developed by Dr. Yoona Kim's team looked more like living organisms than traditional spacecraft, their hulls capable of changing molecular structure in milliseconds, adapting to any threat. Quantum disruption protocols. At maximum, announced Lieutenant Seok Hwang, his neural interface humming with anticipation. The alien fleet approached like a nightmare made of living metal. Massive crystalline vessels that had consumed entire human colonies now found themselves facing an entirely different opponent. These weren't the same humans they had initially encountered. Yoona's quantum virus began its most complex operation yet. It wasn't just a communication disruptor anymore. It was a complete systemic attack on the Arachnid Collective's fundamental existence. The first wave of alien ships suddenly lost coordination. Their perfect unified consciousness began to fragment. It was like watching a complex machine slowly forget how to function, with each component suddenly becoming uncertain of its purpose. "Target acquisition confirmed," Seok reported, his voice calm despite the magnitude of the moment. Experimental plasma cannons mounted on human vessels began firing quantum-entangled projectiles. These weren't traditional weapons. They were information. Weapons that could simultaneously exist in multiple states, destroying both physical and communication infrastructures. One massive alien vessel, easily 5 kilometers long, began to break apart. Its living metal hull started separating, each section suddenly operating independently, losing the collective intelligence that had made it so powerful. Ji-Hoon Lee, mastermind of the psychological warfare strategy, watched from Earth's primary defense control. "We're not just destroying them," he muttered. "We're unraveling their entire existence." The battle transformed into something beyond traditional warfare. Human fighters moved with impossible precision, predicting alien movements. Before they could even be conceived, quantum adaptive shields absorbed and redirected alien weapon systems, turning the most devastating attacks into harmless energy dispersions. Near the massive storm systems of Jupiter, space itself seemed to bend and twist. Explosions bloomed, like strange silent flowers, each representing another piece of the Arachnid Collective's technological infrastructure, collapsing. What made this battle unique was humanity's approach. They weren't just fighting to survive, they were fighting to understand, to evolve, to prove that creativity and adaptability were more powerful than perfect collective intelligence. Experimental drone squadrons, controlled by advanced AI but guided by human strategic thinking, began systematically dismantling the alien fleet. Each movement was a complex dance of destruction, showing a level of tactical creativity that the Arachnid Collective could never comprehend. "Primary communication networks collapsing," announced the ship's quantum computer. The alien vessels began to lose cohesion. Their once perfect coordination transformed into chaos. It was like watching a complex machine slowly forget how to exist, with each component suddenly becoming an independent, confused entity. Yuna's quantum virus had done more than disrupt communications. It had introduced the concept of individual consciousness into a previously unified collective. The Arachnid Collective was experiencing something close to an existential crisis. Hours of intense battle reduced the once mighty alien fleet to scattered, confused remnants. Those few vessels that remained were mere shadows of their previous technological perfection. As the final alien vessel disintegrated, a strange silence fell across the solar system. Humanity had done more than win a war. They had fundamentally transformed the understanding of technological conflict. Captain J. Park looked out at the remaining space debris, understanding that this was more than a military victory. This was a statement about human potential, about the power of creativity, adaptability, and collective human spirit. The Arachnid Collective was gone, but humanity was just beginning to understand its true potential. Thanks for listening. The future of humanity balanced on the edge of this technological knife. As research continued, something remarkable happened. The very technology designed to understand alien communication began revealing deeper mysteries about consciousness, interconnectedness, and the nature of intelligent communication. Humanity was no longer just defending itself, it was evolving. Thanks for listening. The modified Interceptor spacecraft gleamed under the artificial lights of Lunar Hangar 7. Lieutenant. Seok Hwang ran his hand along its sleek carbon nanite hull, feeling the subtle vibrations of experimental quantum engines. This wasn't just another fighter. This was humanity's first true weapon against the Arachnid invasion. Around him, a new breed of soldiers prepared for what might be the most critical mission in human history. These weren't traditional military personnel, but hybrid warriors. Part soldier, part technological interface, trained to think and react faster than any previous generation. Titan colony engagement begins in 17 minutes, announced the tactical computer, its voice calm and precise. Seok's squadron consisted of 12 experimental fighters, each equipped with Dr. Yuna Kim's quantum disruption technology. Their mission was simple yet impossibly complex: break the Arachnid Collective's communication network and create a window of vulnerability. The first wave of alien ships appeared like a nightmare materializing from quantum space. Massive, crystalline structures that seemed to breathe and pulse with an unnatural intelligence. Their surfaces shifted and adapted, creating camouflage patterns that made traditional targeting systems useless. "Initiating quantum signature tracking," Seok commanded. His fighter responded instantly. The cockpit became a living interface, neural links allowing him to process information at speeds previously impossible. Each movement, each decision happened in microseconds, faster than human thought, yet completely controlled by human intention. The space around Titan transformed into a bizarre dance of destruction. Human fighters moved like liquid mercury, anticipating alien attack vectors before the arachnids could even compute their own strategies. Plasma trails painted temporary rainbows against the darkness, explosions blooming like strange cosmic flowers. What made this battle different was humanity's newfound understanding. They weren't just fighting. They were learning, adapting, transforming their entire approach to warfare in real time. One experimental fighter, piloted by Ji-Yun Park, demonstrated this perfectly. When a massive alien tentacle ship attempted to consume her vessel, she didn't just evade. She used the ship's quantum disruptors to send a cascading communication virus directly into the alien vessel's neural network. The result was spectacular. The alien ship suddenly lost coherence, its perfect mechanical coordination fragmenting into confused, scattered signals. It was like watching a complex machine suddenly forget how to function. "Target neutralized," Ji-Yun reported, her voice steady despite the incredible maneuver. Seok watched in amazement as his team systematically dismantled what was supposed to be an invincible alien force. Each fighter moved with a coordinated precision that seemed almost supernatural. They weren't just fighting, they were rewriting the fundamental rules of space combat. Ground control on Earth watched the battle through fragmented communication channels. Military strategists who had previously believed humanity was doomed now saw something miraculous happening. These weren't just soldiers, they were the evolutionary response to an existential threat. An alien drone squadron attempted a counterattack, their razor-sharp appendages cutting through normal space like liquid metal. But the human fighters were prepared. Using quantum predictive algorithms, they anticipated every movement, every potential attack vector. "We're not just defending," Seok told his squadron. "We're teaching them what it means to underestimate humanity." The battle around Titan became more than a military engagement. It was a statement, a declaration that humanity would not simply become another consumed species in the galaxy's violent history. As the engagement continued, something remarkable happened. The Arachnid Collective began showing signs of confusion. Their perfect distributed intelligence suddenly seemed uncertain. The quantum disruption technology was working beyond anyone's wildest expectations. Hours passed. The battle transformed from a potential extinction event to a turning point in human history. When communication channels finally stabilized, a simple message echoed across human networks. "Titan colony secured." Lieutenant Seok Hwang allowed himself a small smile. They had done more than win a battle. They had shown the universe that humanity was not just another prey species. The counter-offensive had begun. Thanks for listening. The underground communication center hummed with an electric intensity. Rows of specialized technicians worked silently, their fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that looked more like living art than technological equipment. At the center stood Ji-Hoon Lee, the mastermind behind humanity's most ambitious psychological warfare strategy. "We're not just intercepting their signals," Ji-Hoon explained to his core team. "We're going to make them doubt their own existence." The Arachnid Collective's communication network was a marvel of distributed intelligence. Each alien vessel, each drone, was like a single neuron in a massive, galaxy-spanning brain. They didn't just communicate, they thought as a single, unified consciousness. But consciousness could be manipulated. Ji-Hoon's team had spent months studying every fragment of alien communication they could intercept. They discovered something profound. The Arachnid Collective's strength was also its greatest weakness. Their perfect coordination left them vulnerable to strategic confusion. The first attack was subtle. They began introducing microscopic quantum anomalies into the alien communication networks. These weren't traditional viruses or disruption signals. They were carefully crafted information packages designed to create doubt, uncertainty, and internal conflict. Imagine a perfect machine that suddenly starts questioning its own purpose. That was the weapon Ji-hun was creating. In deep space, alien vessels began experiencing strange phenomena. Communication signals would momentarily fragment. Strategic calculations would show impossible contradictions. For the first time in their known history, the Arachnid Collective experienced something close to fear. One intercepted communication revealed the growing confusion. Inconsistency detected, a collective voice reported. Origin unknown, probability of external manipulation increasing. The human team celebrated silently. They weren't destroying the aliens, they were making them destroy themselves. Advanced. Quantum algorithms created false communication pathways. Some signals suggested potential internal threats. Others introduced complex mathematical paradoxes that challenged the fundamental way the Arachnid Collective processed information. The stars outside the viewport of Outpost Epsilon flickered like distant memories, silent and cold. Captain J. Park rolled his shoulders, feeling the weight of 12 years of space patrol grinding into his muscles. Most nights were boring, just endless darkness and occasional meteor showers, but today felt different. His junior communications officer, Hye-jin, suddenly straightened in her seat. Her fingers danced across holographic screens, her face turning pale. "Captain, we've got multiple hyperspace signatures forming at Sector 7 Gamma." Jay knew that tone. It wasn't routine. Something was coming. Within moments, massive crystalline spacecraft began materializing, each looking like a nightmarish blend of mechanical precision and organic nightmare. Their surfaces shifted and pulsed, almost breathing with an alien intelligence. These weren't just ships. They were living machines that seemed to think, adapt, and hunt. The Arachnid Collective had arrived. Their first wave moved with terrifying coordination. Smaller drone-like vessels, resembling metallic spiders with razor-sharp appendages, began swarming around human outposts. Each drone could slice through standard defense shields like paper, revealing technological capabilities far beyond human understanding. "Defensive protocols," Jay barked. "Activate emergency quantum barriers." Hye-jin's hands moved faster than light, triggering planetary defense networks. Massive energy cannons emerged from hidden mountain bases, lunar platforms, and orbital stations. Humanity wasn't going down without a fight. The initial battle looked like a cosmic dance of destruction. Human fighters, sleek, angular spacecraft powered by fusion reactors, darted between massive alien vessels. Plasma trails painted temporary rainbows against the black vacuum. Explosions bloomed like strange flowers, silent yet devastating, but the aliens were calculating. For every human ship destroyed, they seemed to learn, adapt, and improve their attack strategies. Their technology felt alive, almost sentient. A massive tentacled spacecraft, easily 5 kilometers long, began consuming smaller human stations. Its metallic tendrils absorbed entire research facilities, converting them into raw material with horrifying efficiency. Thousands of human researchers and technicians vanished in moments, their last screams lost in the soundless void of space. Jay watched in horror as colonies he'd protected for years simply disappeared. "They're not just attacking," Hye-jin whispered. "They're studying us." Her statement carried a chilling truth. These weren't typical invaders seeking territory or resources. The Arachnid Collective seemed interested in understanding humanity, perhaps as a prelude to something far more terrifying. Automated distress signals began flooding communication channels. Earth received fragmented messages from outer colonies, each more desperate than the last. Military command centers transformed into controlled chaos, with strategists realizing they faced an enemy completely unlike anything in human combat history. What made the Arachnids truly terrifying was their ability to rapidly evolve tactics. Traditional warfare strategies became obsolete within minutes. They didn't just attack, they learned and transformed with each engagement. A young technician named Minho, monitoring long-range scanners, discovered something peculiar. The alien vessels communicated through complex quantum entanglement, creating a living network that processed information faster than any known computational system. "They're thinking as one," Minho reported, his voice trembling. like a massive distributed brain. Jay understood the implications. This wasn't just a military invasion, it was potentially a species-level threat that could fundamentally alter human existence. As the first wave of attacks concluded, humanity found itself pushed to the brink. Outer solar system colonies were gone. Millions had disappeared. Communication networks were fragmented. The seemingly invincible human technological civilization now faced its greatest challenge. But beneath the chaos, something remarkable was happening. Human resilience, that indefinable spirit of survival, began crystallizing. Military leaders, scientists, and everyday citizens started understanding that this wasn't just a war. This was a fight for survival. Small pockets of resistance began forming, underground research facilities, hidden military bases, experimental weapon development centers. Humanity wasn't preparing to surrender. They were preparing to fight back. The Arachnid Collective might have won the first battle. But the war was just beginning. Thanks for listening. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a secure research facility that didn't officially exist, Dr. Yuna Kim stared at holographic data streams that danced like living organisms. 3 months had passed since the initial arachnid attack, and humanity was desperate for a breakthrough. Her team of 37 researchers worked in shifts, surviving on cold coffee and raw determination. They weren't just scientists anymore. They were humanity's last hope. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A damaged alien drone recovered from the Titan colony massacre sat in a sealed containment chamber. Its metallic body seemed to pulse with an almost living energy, complex, circuits intertwining like neural networks. "Look at this," Yuna muttered, zooming into the drone's communication matrix. Most researchers saw complex machinery, but she saw something different, a pattern, a rhythm of communication that was more biological than technological. Her assistant, Dongwu, watched skeptically. "We've been staring at this thing for weeks. What could you possibly see that we haven't?" Yuna's fingers moved across holographic interfaces, creating complex quantum algorithms that began to decode the alien communication. Structure. It wasn't just a transmission system. It was a living, breathing network of information. The arachnid technology worked like a collective consciousness. Each drone, each spacecraft, was less an individual machine and more like a single cell in a massive distributed brain. They didn't just communicate, they thought as one unified entity. "We've been approaching this all wrong," Yuna explained to her team. "We can't fight them with traditional weapons. We need to understand their fundamental communication method." Her breakthrough came from an unlikely combination of quantum computing, biological neural network analysis, and an intuitive understanding of collective intelligence. She developed a specialized virus, not a computer virus, but a quantum communication disruptor that could potentially introduce chaos into the aliens' unified thinking system. The first test was small but promising. A simulated alien communication network began to fragment, its perfect coordination suddenly breaking down into confused, scattered signals. Military strategists were initially skeptical. General Park, no relation to Captain J. Park, viewed the research with a mixture of hope and frustration. "We need weapons that can shoot, not mathematical theories," he often complained. But Yuna knew better. Her virus wasn't just a weapon. It was a potential key to understanding and defeating the Arachnid Collective. Meanwhile, hidden research stations around the world began adapting her initial discoveries. Engineers developed experimental spacecraft with quantum adaptive shields. Weapons designers created projectiles that could change their molecular structure mid-flight, making traditional defense systems useless. The human response was evolving. Satellite. Networks captured glimpses of ongoing battles in deep space. Human colonies, thought to be completely destroyed, showed surprising resistance. Small groups used improvised technologies, turning everyday equipment into weapons of survival. One remarkable incident involved a mining colony near Jupiter. When arachnid drones attacked, the colonists used plasma drilling equipment and communication jammers to create localized electromagnetic storms. 3 alien vessels were completely disabled, their perfect coordination suddenly fragmenting. Yuna's team worked around the clock. They weren't just developing a weapon. They were creating a completely new approach to warfare. Each breakthrough felt like they were rewriting the fundamental rules of technological engagement. "We're not just fighting," Yuna told her exhausted. "Team One Night. We're learning how to think like them, but still remain fundamentally human." Her quantum communication disruptor was more than a weapon. It was a bridge between human creativity and alien technological perfection. Each test brought them closer to understanding the Arachnid Collective's mysterious communication methods.